Welcome to the Money Business Podcast. I'm Neal Regino.
And I am Brian Weyman.
Today, we're going to talk about how to choose the right advisor.
Right. So, how do you choose the right advisor? In our world, we get that all the time. How does a client know that we're right for them, or who the advisor is right for them? Sometimes the client's not right for the advisor. So what would you say if someone came to you and said, "Hey, Neal, how do I know I'm picking the right person to be my financial advisor, financial planner?"
Yeah. Well, I'd say for Brian and I doing this for so long, a lot of our clients come from current clients or other referrals. So it's a little bit easier, but especially if you've been with somebody for a long time and maybe you're looking for a new person, or at least just want to see if your person's or team has been doing the right thing for you and that there isn't something else out there. Um, the two biggest things that I tell a client is, and even if I'm meeting them for the first time, I say, I want to take the time to show you that I'm competent. So you need to figure out that this person knows what they're talking about. And that doesn't come on the first conversation. You should take your time. And if they're not willing to put in the time, they're probably not the right advisor to begin with. But then the second thing is, do you trust that person? And that doesn't come right away either, right? So you need to take the time to feel somebody out and make sure that they are a trustworthy person, build a rapport with them. For advisors like Brian and I, we work under a broker dealer. You can look us up on Broker Check. That's just the quick hit for a background check on us. But, not every advisor's on Broker Check, especially if they're under a different type of model. So um, that's, and that doesn't tell you the whole picture. Uh, then the other part is, are they just pushing one specific thing on you? Is it one investment portfolio? Is it one insurance product? Is it one company that they're showing you for everything? You want to make sure that they're showing you other options. Every plan that a person is getting put together for them, there's not one way to achieve everything, majority of the time. There are multiple ways to achieve the same objective, depending on uh, a number of things: where your assets are, asset level, time horizon, risk tolerance, what you're comfortable with. I've had clients that didn't want any exposure to the market. I've had other clients that want only exposure to the market. So it's what fits into your specific need as a client rather than the advisor trying to put something in front of you that's really just for them. And, for a lot of large companies that are out there, big name companies, you're going to see people that are putting majority of that money in those specific company products in general. And it comes with them being larger companies. Um, but yeah, so I'd say to start, just make sure they're taking their time with you, they're not pushing you, and that you are educating and that they're educating you and that they're willing to take the time to show you that they care about you because they should.
I think one of the things that I have a problem with, and you can tell me how you feel about this, is when you hear about advisors and they just talk about specifically returns, right?
Yep.
And then I'll ask the client, okay, well, yeah, they have this portfolio. You had this portfolio, and they're trying to show you this portfolio, and this portfolio is a little better than that portfolio. But did they ever stop to ask you questions about how you feel about what are your goals, what are your objectives, what's your timeline, when are you trying to retire? Or is your money being left to your children? Do you plan on spending it all in retirement? Like, what's the plan here? What keeps you up at night? And sometimes those returns won't fit those answers. So you have to manage it in a certain way
Yeah.
so that you're meeting the expectation of the client, you're helping them hit the goals. Because it's really easy for everybody to say, oh, I just want to make the most or get the best return. It's like, yeah, but how much risk are you willing to take to do it? And what's really the plan? So elaborate on that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I don't believe that you should go to an advisor specifically to get you the best return out there. First of all, in my opinion, there are plenty of great money managers out there, investment managers that are financial advisors. But if they're not, if you're at the right asset level, and they are not actually introducing you to the right portfolio manager, it's going to be hard for an advisor to ever tell you that they think they can consistently hit a certain return. I don't think you should have an advisor give you a consistently a certain return. If you have the right plan, then and over time a portfolio does a return that you're expecting, then great. But you shouldn't go to an advisor just because they think, hey, I'm going to beat the market. I'm going to get you 15, 20%, which is a large number. But what I say when I see a portfolio that an advisor is actually the manager charging a management fee, and not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but where I say for me and the way that I personally work is I'm not staring at a Bloomberg terminal all day. I'm not watching the market. There are firms out there that have hundreds of analysts feeding their portfolio manager, and that's all they do. And it would be a disservice for me to tell you that I can do better than them. And that's for me personally. There are probably advisors out there that can beat some of these firms, but I'd say more than likely you're better served by using a third party if that makes sense for your situation. Um, so I personally don't ever compete where I personally say that I can beat a return. My whole train of thought is build the right strategy to achieve your objectives most efficiently and introduce you to the managers that you feel comfortable with and let them take it. Uh, Now that's not for everybody. If you're just building wealth, probably doesn't make sense to pay a manager to take over your money. But depending on your situation and the asset level, it will make a lot of sense to do that. So
Yeah, and I find that I find that as advisors you have to be well versed to be able to discuss all things. Like you said earlier, you don't like you would stay away from an advisor that has one specific strategy or one specific product. Um, there's been plenty of times I've spoke with people that I'm not the advisor and they ask me questions. Could be family members and friends, and when I try to get the answers, they have no resource to the answers of things like understanding how their insurance works, understanding how their taxes are working, understanding Social Security, understanding Medicaid and Medicare, and how long term care is going to work in retirement. In addition to a thousand other things, I think that advisor needs to have, not that we can be experts on everything, but you have to have resources so that when you're having that meeting, when you're having your meetings with your clients, that you can touch on all bases to make sure that the plan fits. So, how much experience do you have with running into people where it is just a portfolio manager that you look at, they told them, you know, just buy term insurance because that's all that matters, or you don't
mhm.
need disability insurance, or don't worry about long term care. I mean, how often does that happen?
All the time, and I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't ever say, "Hey, you shouldn't do that." I'd say, "Well, let me look more at your situation and see if that makes
Right.
sense." We hear it all the time from a very famous person: buy term, invest the rest, and that makes sense for a lot of people, but it doesn't make sense for
No.
everybody. Um, and as your situation gets more complicated, more than likely, so is your plan. Meaning that it needs more of a fine tooth comb to actually go in there and make sure that everything's running in juxtaposition with everything else because all parts relate to each other in your overall financial wellness. So, there is no one solution that solves for everybody. Everybody's
Right.
situation is different. You hear people say that all the time, but the way that we help clients, I don't have a lot of situations that look exactly the same. There are some that you go into certain markets, like a lot of physicians, a lot of depending where they are in their career, maybe it looks similar. Dentist, same thing. But then on an individual level, everybody's goals, expectations, dreams, wants, desires, they're all different. So
And they all change.
yeah, and we create plans that are dynamic. We do change and make sure that we're checking into to make sure that that works. Um, the other part to choosing a right advisor that uh, we talk about this all the time is most advisors can really handle a client if they're competent when they get to a certain threshold, which the estate tax threshold. When you go above that amount, it's a 40% estate tax on the federal level. Um, and what happens is as your assets grow, if you're not doing planning with an attorney, an estate attorney, a CPA, and the advisor and insurance agents all working in unison, the client's not only going to lose the 40%, the advisor's going to lose the 40%, and the family's going to lose it. So the level of expertise changes, and there are offices that are out there that specifically tailor to that ultra high net worth. Now, most people don't think that they're ever going to hit that threshold. Well, first of all, if you're making enough money and have the right advisor and you have the right plan in place, it's likely, if you have enough time horizon, that you are going to get there. The other part is, as a business owner, most business owners know that's their biggest asset, but they don't know exactly what it's worth. I had somebody that I spoke with that the business is worth about $50 million. They had a trust set up. They admittedly said they don't even have wills set up, but the trust was just personal assets. So guess what? That entire business was exposed for the estate tax purposes when they're calculating total assets. And they would have had to do some pretty complicated things probably in order to keep the business and pay for that tax, because it's not a liquid asset, but they still owe the money on there. So working with somebody that can take you through those stages that you have when you're growing now, what happens on the next stage, what happens on the next stage, what about when you outgrow that advisor? Well, if you're at a firm like ours where you can specifically handle any level of asset, and especially with business owners, pointing with the right professionals to make sure that their assets are handled right, to
Teams.
reduce, yeah, to reduce or eliminate that estate tax, to help with planning now. Um, but obviously, there's a lot of moving parts, and if they're not all working together, then there could be a misstep there, and it could be severe. Um, so yeah, when you're choosing the right advisor, if you don't know that you're at that level, or they didn't tell you, or you're getting close to there, you want to make sure that they know what to do next. So
Yeah, so it's asking the right questions, obviously,
yeah,
and understanding their background, obviously.
yep,
So back to my point from earlier, if they're just showing you returns, it's probably not who you want to be talking to.
correct. And the other thing I say is, it doesn't matter how long you've been working with an advisor, what the relationship is, to do your due diligence to make sure that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to. It's okay to go to another advisor and just see what they would do. Um, and I'm okay with my clients saying, "Hey, I'm just gonna test you to make sure that you're doing the right thing for me." I actually am fine with that. If I did the right thing for that person, then it's okay. But the worst case scenario is that you find out that there's something missing that could be significant to you or to your beneficiaries. And the best thing that can happen is you have peace of mind that everything you're doing is exactly what you should. There's a reason why, uh, if you have an endowment at a school, you want to send it out to RFP every 3 years, or you have a 401k, you want to send it out for RFP every few years to just make sure that you're in the right place.
Right.
If institutions are doing this, it should be okay for you to feel comfortable to do it as well. And it doesn't mean it has to disrupt your relationship. It just means you're making sure that an advisor's doing right by you, and that they're not just doing what's beneficial for them. So, um, so yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there, but take your time with finding the right advisor. Make sure you're comfortable with them,
Make
and
sure you like them.
yeah, yeah,
Make sure you like them. I like to like my clients. Hopefully, they like me.
yeah. I
So,
tell the people that are on my team, your clients should feel like you care about them because you should.
correct.
So,
And they should know everything about you, your kids' names, what your plans are, everything.
yeah, what your blood type is.
Well, I don't know if I need that, but we'll put it in the file.
Yeah.
All right, I think that covers it.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you guys. Brian, Neal, signing off. Hopefully this helps.